All right, let's talk about the PvE content. So firstly, the PvE content is going to break up into 3 sections here. And I'll probably chapter them as well. But you've basically got your main quest, your side quest, and your dungeons as well. And I've separated the main and side quests because I'm going to talk about them individually because I think they're good at different things. And I think some of them fall short in different areas too, so I want to separate them as different ideas. But anyways, so firstly, Elderscrolls Online I think is very unique in that the quests are like spoken, they're narrated to you. So if you're someone who, like, honestly, like me, who has some, like, I have like a learning disability. If you have like a learning disability that affects reading, like I do, you are going to be in a much better position with this game, I find, than other games that run like MMOs, because although there is written text that you can like very clearly see, the characters will read to you, which is great because a lot of MMOs, for example World of Warcraft, do not do this, and it makes it really hard for me. And I imagine it makes it hard for a lot of people who have similar issues. I also imagine if you were someone who, like, English wasn't your first language, the fact that they do read to you and then have the text as well, like always, that's always how quests work. I think that would also be probably really good for you as well. Alright, so the side quests in the game, which are, I think, one of the game's strongest points, are really good, and I think a lot of people like them. A lot of people I've talked to, at least within my guild, which is a finite group of people, they do like those side quests, and I think that they're really good. I like that they're more mundane, and that they are shorter as well. They don't take as long to complete. You get sort of like a nice, sweet little story of whatever's going on. They help contextualize the area you're in, and the loot is comparable to main quests as well, at least in terms of what you get at different points in the main quest. Not if you stacked all the loot together and were like, boom, look at this versus this. That wouldn't be the same. But as terms of, like, for the time you get between each section of a main quest where that gives you loot versus like what you get in a short little side quest, they're comparable. And there's a lot more side quests as well. Side quests can be very, like, different depending on the region you're in, depending on the person giving the quest and the quest itself. I think this can be very good for players as well because you get, in my opinion, a more immersive experience from these side quests. Things like I had an assassin character who was able to do not just one, but a number of quests in the game that revolved around assassinating a particular individual or taking out a group of individuals. I thought that was pretty cool. There's quests for, like, you know, like more magey characters. There's ones that revolve more around like a war effort. And I find for different characters I play, different types of quests make sense. And I get a chance to do quests that I feel like are more akin to what my character would be doing, because there's so many of them. Like, I have been trying to do a number of the quests that are in just my alliance to get a alliance estate, and it's been a lot. It's like between there's 4 areas you have to go to, which are not all of the areas in my alliance. There's 4 areas you have to go to. Most of them have like 20 plus quests, 30 quests, I want to say. I might be wrong, but a lot of quests. And that's when I get done those areas, I still have quests in those areas to do. Like, I didn't complete all of them, technically. I just completed a lot of it. And, I mean, it'll depend on the area. There'll be different quests, but there's a lot of areas, and a lot of those areas are gonna have quests in them that you can do. And most of those quests are pretty interesting. There's like a quest in Riften, I remember, where you have to put out like a fire. I don't know, if you liked the like side quests in Skyrim that felt like random tangents, but they were interesting tangents, you're like a lot of the quests in this game as far as side quests go. There are also bigger side quests, like the ones for the guilds. I would consider bigger side quests. They're like the main quest of that guild, but they're not like a main quest. but they're like main quest sized. I don't know how to classify them, but they're pretty good. So you can see some of those. There'll be a bunch of stuff, and then you'll find like bigger quests that are like more for the region you're in that are still not really a main quest, but they kind of are. There's a lot to choose from, and they give out decent rewards too. You get sometimes like different cosmetic items that you can only get from these quests. Like there's one that gives you a skeleton, and that's such a cool quest too. You have to like decide the fate of this like cursed group of people. It's cool, but you can like turn into a skeleton when you're done it. And I'm not gonna spoil much about the quest because I don't want to do that. But yeah, it's pretty cool. Now we have to talk about main quest, which in my opinion, I don't think hit as hard. That's my opinion. It's also the opinion of a lot of people I've talked to. There are some people I talk to who really do love the main quest, and I think what it comes down to is like what you want for your experience. Do you want to be the like big hero guy who like takes on the Daedra and like saves the day in that way? Because that's going to be the main quest. Most of the time, that's the main quest. And you're going to have a great time with those main quests. But if you want to be just like, like a simple fighter or something who's like helping people, you probably have a better time with the side quest. And there's a bunch of side quests, and they're all really good. Like, usually in games, the side quests are not very good. In my opinion, the side quests are better than the main quest in this game. I would go so bold as to recommend that new players, before pursuing the main quest, go do a few side quests. Because they're pretty good, and I find that the main quest of the game often bores new players who don't like end up having a good experience because of it. Not all of it. I mean, I played the main quest. I didn't beat it. I went off and did something else. But so you can have a good time with it. But I do like a few small side quests before going off into it, just to get a taste of like what the game's like outside of that main quest. Because I think especially the first main quest that you get in like the game, the first one you're presented with, it thrusts on you, I think is, in my opinion, the least interesting of all of the main quests. They get really much more interesting with DLCs and stuff like that. I'm not saying there still isn't a problem with them not being super interesting, because there is. But they at least have notes or like moments that I feel like really had my attention. Whereas like I felt like with the main quest in the game, and this could be just my personal experience, I felt like I wasn't gripped as much for most of it. So I just want to take a moment to talk as well about the different abilities. It's one of my favorite parts within the game. I really like that you just get like a lot of freedom and can sort of make whatever build you want to make. I've only had a few builds like I couldn't make, and they were pretty ridiculous. It was like I wanted to make kind of a bard once, and it didn't really work out. But overall, you can kind of make whatever build you want to make. I play Nertha. Nertha's a sorcerer with like a sword and shield and heavy armor, slashing people and casting spells. Like, there's nothing really stopping me from doing that. There's also subclasses like vampire and werewolf, so you can build pretty elaborate builds, which I feel like in a lot of games you just can't do that. You're very typecasted. Whereas excluding, I think, Nightblade, every class can be a healer, a tank, or a DPS, and we'll just go about doing that in different ways. And there's obviously classes that are more suited to it, or it'll look different. Like for some classes, the healing is going to be like a pretty small effect that affects the whole group. For some classes, it'll be like an area effect heal. For some, it'll be direct healing. For like if you get a like, I don't know, like a necromancer, for example, there will be like you apply like some buffs, I think, is when you heal people, but like at the cost of your own well-being. Worth noting, necromancer is a DLC class, but you get my point. It gets different in the way you do it, and you can morph your abilities as well. They're also adding a new system, which I don't know a lot about, in the next expansion. That's gonna revolve around like another way to change your abilities in what like they do aesthetically, I think, or maybe even functionally. So we'll have to see what they do with that. But as of right now, they haven't released that expansion, so I don't really know what the game plan is with that. But you get a lot of freedom, and I think that's very unique from an MMO because I think, in my experience, and it just might be my experience, but all the MMOs I've played, I felt very typecasted. You are the mage, so you are in light armor, and you're going to be in the back lines. Like, the idea of being a mage who's like right up there with the tank. This is the first game that's let me do that, and I really love it. So we went over the different like abilities that existed, but let's shift over into PvP now. So player versus player is, I think, probably you could almost say the other side of the player base. I know there are like crafters and house builders, but usually they either do PvE or PvP or, you know, one of those things on top of whatever else they're doing. But the PvP breaks down into 2 game modes that are similar but different. They're different and similar in similar ways. That's a great way to say that. Basically, you've got Battlegrounds and you've got Cyrodiil. You do technically have some. I think it's like Cyrodiil City or something. That one is like more quest based. But you have Cyrodiil in Battlegrounds, and Cyrodiil is a 3-banner war. The Altmary Dominion, which again is going to be High Elf, Wood Elf, and Khajiit. Daggerfall Covenant, which is going to be Breeden, Orc, and Redguard. And we've got the Ebonheart Pack, which is going to be Argonian, Dark Elf, and Nord. But basically, from these sides, they're all fights. You've got 3 wars. If you've ever played like PlanetSide 2, it's very PlanetSide 2-esque. Where you've got these 3 sides fighting, and it'll just go on forever, basically, until there's one side who holds the map, and it'll reset. There's some finer elements of PvP I don't really know much about. Like when I was playing today, I saw something about an Elderscroll being stolen. I don't really know anything about that. I don't play PvP as my main game mode. What I do know is I quite like PvP. It's really fun. The way you can build different classes makes things really unpredictable in an interesting way. Like for a while, I had my sorcerer who was in heavy armor and a shield, and a lot of people assumed he was going to be a Nightblade, so they like rushed in on him, and then he would have like one of his companions around, and then his vampirism, and it gave them like a really rough time. So it's like there's interesting ways you can build classes if that's what you like to do, which is what I love to do. I love to build interesting classes, and it really favors itself to PvP. Nightblade is overall, I think, favored the most in PvP, but everyone has a useful role in PvP. Every class can be useful, every subclass can be useful, so it's like, how do you want to build yourself out? What do you want to do? And that's the same for PvE and PvP, but like the way you build PvP. There are abilities that I don't think have any use in PvE, but are absolutely very useful in PvP. So this you sort of build out differently. If you want more information on that, there's videos other people have released which go way more in depth on how to build for specific armors and stuff for like PvP, but that's not what we're talking about today. We're just talking about the main mechanics. So I talked about Battlegrounds. Battlegrounds is similar to the Cyrodiil, but instead of this big open map that has like NPCs as well as a lot of PvP in it, you have this tight map with smaller sections, and it's like capture the flag. You're totaling up points by capturing different sections. You can see in this video here as my team loses rather miserably, actually. But there's different flags. You capture those flags, and that gets you points. And then from those points, you will either win or come in second or third, as you assume. And yeah, you're fighting with other players. The difference is it's much smaller in scale, so the fights you see, like the one you're seeing in a minute here, where there was a big fight in like Cyrodiil where there was like big like invasion on like the castle. You get those, but they're more spaced out. You can have a lot of time in Cyrodiil where nothing's happening, and you're just sort of running around trying to catch up with what's going on and like things like that. Like you can move around pretty peacefully for a lot, and there's like calm moments, whereas like in Battlegrounds, you notice there's not a whole lot of calm moments. You have maybe a little bit where it's calm. In Cyrodiil, you're always having 3-banner fights as well. Not Cyrodiil, sorry. Let me rephrase that. In Battlegrounds, you are always having 3 banner fights. In Cyrodiil, you very rarely have that. Sometimes you do, and those are probably the most interesting fights in the game. But in Battlegrounds, you quite often do. If I can show it, there's a clip when I was getting some footage for it where you could see I was fighting someone else and someone of a different banner came by and killed the person I was gonna kill me and then killed me. That, I don't know, that's pretty interesting as far as PvP goes. But that's fundamentally the systems in PvP. They obviously get more advanced than that. But on a basic level, these are the two systems in the game, if that interests you. And honestly, as far as MMO PvP goes, it's some of the best MMO PvP I've ever had from games that were not primarily designed as a PvP game. It is a very fun PvP, and I do actually spend a decent bit of time in it. I'm not like a PvP player, really, but I've spent probably more time in the PvP in this game than I have in like the PvP in other games like World of Warcraft and things like that. I find it quite fun. Alright, so let's move on to the crafting, and we'll talk a little bit about how that works. It's really not very complicated, but it is very smooth. So you can build up different things. There's armor crafting, I want to say leatherworking, woodworking, clothing, and enchanting, and potion making, and provisions, I think. They're on screen, you can see them. I can't, because I'm recording this audio separately. But yeah, and these will control like what you make in the game. What you can't see here is there's a there's a third thing. There's way more than 3 crafting. There's another thing for crafting, and that's furniture crafting. Furniture crafting includes all of these. Every one of these listed things here is part of furniture crafting, and different recipes will be or different ones. You go to different stands for furniture crafting. And furniture crafting will be important. We'll talk about it in a second when we talk about housing. But yeah, you can build up this armor and stuff like that. So really, if you're leveling up, say like armor crafting at the same time as you're leveling up like your character, and you keep in sync, you can actually like create armor that's on par or better with what you're doing as you're doing it. And then once you get good enough, you can like be someone who makes like guild armor, or you can join a guild for like a merchant guild and sell your armor on like the market or that kind of thing. And that goes for everything, like enchantments as well. You can do all of that and sell it. All right, let's talk about the market. So the game does have a, I guess you could call it microtransaction and market, apart from its DLCs. I think it's a very fair market, although I do think the prices can be a little like bitey. But I'll explain what I mean. So basically, you can, you don't really need this like DLC microtransaction market at all. And I don't mean that in a way a lot of people mean it when they say like, oh, like you don't need this, but it's like, oh, you'd be so cool with it. No, like genuinely, you can find cool armor in the game. A lot of like role players that I have played with don't have, don't buy any like DLC stuff or have very minimal. I have a lot of it, but that's partly because I've had premium before, which I guess I can talk about now. So there is premium. Premium is like a subscription thing you can get. It gives you some extra space in your housing to like place more furniture, but you do get a good bit of furniture options regardless. You're not really starved for that. You also get like, I forget the amount, but a lot of points to spend over the course of like a year if you buy a year, or a month if you're going monthly. Yeah, I think that it's a pretty good deal. You also get the ability to dye cosmetic items, which is really good for roleplay. Or if you just want to look more unique in, I don't know, PvP or whatever people use cosmetics for besides that. It's really good for that. I think the prices are fair. I've probably put more money into the game through this than I need to, but it's there. If you're somebody who doesn't like microtransactions in games, which I know a lot of people don't, ignore it. it's really like when I say it, you don't need it, I really do mean you don't need it. Just ignore it. It's not even a case of like, like when people are like, oh, you don't need to pay for skins in Apex, but then like all the skins you don't pay for in Apex are terrible. No, it's like literally like you can find cool armor and make cool armor and cool sets if you're gonna put the time in or craft it yourself that don't involve this. You can make your own furniture. You don't need to like literally the furniture on the store is furniture you can make for the most part. I think there's only a few items that aren't. So if you can find the recipe. Um, so yeah, that's I think all that needs to really be said about DLC items. There's also a lot of items you get in the game by doing quests. Like genuinely, most of the cosmetic items that I have, that can't be true. I'm thinking specifically costumes. Most of the costume items I have in the game are from completing quests. You even get them just for reaching level 50. So if you don't even hit the right quests that have it, there's a few you get for like reaching level 50. So you get like good stuff. You used to have to buy horses with like real money, I think. I didn't think there was a way to buy it in game, I don't know. But they've changed that anyways. So you get one for like reaching a specific level in the game. You get to have a horse and that horse will spread across all your accounts and stuff like that, which I think is a good change on their part. So yeah, there really isn't a reason where you're going to be in a position where you're like, I have to buy this because if I don't look cool or whatever. No, you can look awesome in this game. Genuinely, some of the coolest armor in this game is like real armor. My character, you're seeing him run around in this like red armor. That's real armor. It's I think underleveled for the area I'm in, but it's real armor. It's genuinely real armor. One of my friends made it for me, like years ago, and it's great. It's real armor. All right, let's talk about housing. It feels like a good extension of the market. So you can buy some of the housing in the game with gold. I've done it before. Some of it's not even that expensive. Some of it's excessively expensive, and I don't know how I'm ever supposed to make that much money. But it's there, and you could buy it, and they're good houses too. The ones I'm showing you around, there's the I can't think of the name of it, but it's like a pod house that I got. I paid coins for that. There's a lot of people who spend a lot of time building this game because, as you can see, the build system's really elaborate, and you can just move stuff around wherever you want, giving you like a lot of freedom over what you have. I also have a school that I made for. Well, I made it for myself, but I decorated it with help with a guild leader when I joined the guild, and we use it as a school. And that's really cool. People use housing, I think, mostly for roleplay. I think it's the main application for it, but I do know people also use them for just as like status symbols as well, or whatever, as like people who do like PVE and like PvP. I don't know. People can do whatever with them, but again, you can get houses in the game completely free as well. There's like apartments you can get just by going to towns that have apartments and talking to an innkeeper. If you ever have a quest where an innkeeper walks up to you and she's like, "Hey, blah 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 blah," go talk to her and you'll get a free apartment. I have a bunch of them. I have too many of them. And I guess that brings us casually into the topic of like the roleplay community within the game and guilds at the same time. We're talking about guilds first, I think. So the game has a guild system that I don't love. They do have a guild finder, but I don't think it. I have never found a guild with a guild finder. So do with that we will. But the part of the system I really love that works really well, and I think it's the coolest system, and I think a lot of games should do it because my gosh, if it hasn't made it super easy, especially with like roleplay guilds, when you have multiple characters and they're gonna be in one guild, and I imagine it would be the same for like PvP guilds, and like trader guilds. Like if they're all gonna be in one guild, you don't have to invite the character individually. You have, I think it's 5 is the max guilds that you can be in total, and it's account bound, and you can of course leave those guilds at any time. Um, but realistically, you're never gonna need to be in more guilds than that. That just seems like I don't know how you could be. Oh, another important note. This is really cool. Guilds are not race locked, are not alliance locked. Like nothing like that. Like it's not like It's not like World of Warcraft, for example, where like the Horde cannot be in a guild with like alliance members. Someone told me they might have changed that, but at least for a while they couldn't. Anyways, it's really nice that way because like yeah, you can have like it's really nice, at least for me, for like roleplay guilds or trading guilds or anything that isn't a PvP guild, because literally PvP is the only time alliances matter, because people on different alliances can't play together in PvP, but they can play together in PvE, in dungeons, in everything else. And they can be in the same guild and in the same house, and they speak the same like in-game language. So the roleplay communities in the game are not, I would say, like unique. If you're familiar with like how roleplay goes in games before playing like World of Warcraft and other things, it's gonna be the same idea. It really is. Um, but in terms of like emotes and stuff, I find the game tends to be more expressive because there's a lot of emotes. I must show you. There's a lot. The emotes I'm showing you in the like list right now, if I edited my video correctly, are like all the emotes you get by default. These like that's with before DLC emotes, because the DLC emotes are in a different section. That is like just default emotes. It's like, you want to sweep? Yeah, go ahead. You want to like dig a shovel? Go ahead. You want to play dead? Go ahead. You want like 5 sits? You got it. You want to have a number of sleep positions? You got that too. And they're like better for characterization. And then you have personalities, which are almost always DLC, but some of them you can unlock through the game. I talked about that earlier. And you get them through achievements and stuff as well. And that is going to be that's going to change those animations again, so they're characterized with different personality, and the personality will specify what emotes get changed. DLC emotes don't, like, they're additions, they're not changes, which is a difference. Like personalities remap your like a specific set of animations, as well as usually change your idol, whereas the like DLC emotes you pick up are additions. And you can see the like arrow to the knee is like an additional one I got, which I think is funny. And that's really like, that's the game. And I can hope I presented it in a good way. But that is the game broken up into its like core parts. And I think it does its job really well. It has flaws. I think all games are going to have some elements of flaws. Like personally, I don't think I think I said it before. I don't think that the um, main quests are like really its strong suit, which you think it should be. But you can see like the way it breaks up its game modes, its classes. Like I think it does everything else really well. So as far as should you buy Elder Scrolls Online, that's of course up to you. But I would say that yeah, if you like the Elder Scrolls universe, which is like the universe that Skyrim, Oblivion, and Morrowind is in, great. Don't expect, as you saw, this game to be any of those games, because it's not going to be. It's never going to be any of those games. And some people come into this thinking it's going to be those games. That's not what it is. But what it is a very good MMO.